Ever wonder why Freedom Day in South Africa isn't just filled with rainbows and unicorns? We do too. Let's dive into some dark secrets. Freedom Day, celebrated on April 27th each year, marks South Africa's first non-racial democratic elections of 1994. This was a potent symbol of victory over apartheid, a system of institutionalized racial segregation that had gripped the nation for over 4 decades. The day signifies a historic transition from an era of oppression to a promise of equality and liberty. A pretty neat story, right? Well, not so fast. The term Freedom Day itself is laced with irony. Sure, the shackles of apartheid were broken, but the chains of socio-economic inequality, they're still very much around. The end of apartheid didn't magically erase the economic disparity and social divisions, a grim reality that continues to cast a long shadow over the so-called Rainbow Nation. Picture this: you've just stepped out of a dark room into the sunshine. You're free, right? But what if you're still squinting, still struggling to see clearly because the brightness is too harsh, too overwhelming? That's what it was like for many South Africans post-1994. Freedom, yes, but freedom with conditions, with challenges, with a struggle that continued in a different form. Now don't get us wrong, the first democratic elections were a monumental achievement, a turning point to be celebrated. But the dawn of democracy didn't bring an immediate end to the challenges faced by the majority of South Africans. The economic and social divides, the deep-seated racial tensions, didn't just evaporate overnight. Instead, they morphed, changed shape, and took on new forms in the post-apartheid era. So next time you're sipping on a cocktail this Freedom Day, remember, it's not all sunshine and roses. The legacy of apartheid continues to influence the socio-economic landscape of South Africa. A bitter truth that adds a somber note to the Freedom Day celebrations. But remember, acknowledging the darkness of the past is the first step to building a brighter future. Isn't it ironic that a day meant to celebrate freedom is steeped in a history of oppression? Let's unwrap that one. You see, Freedom Day is a bit like a beautifully wrapped gift with a not-so-pretty surprise inside. It's a day we celebrate the end of one of the darkest periods in human history. Yet it's also a stark reminder of the brutal racial segregation and oppression that led to its inception. Oh, the irony. Imagine throwing a party to celebrate the end of a nightmare. That's Freedom Day for you. It's like a toast to the end of a horror movie. Only this one was real and lasted far too long. It's a day that says, hey, remember that time we were horribly oppressed? Yeah, let's have a party about it. So when you're popping that champagne, maybe remember the bitter taste of irony. Sure, Nelson Mandela is a big deal. But what about the unsung heroes of the struggle? Let's give them a moment of silence. Or not. As we delve deeper into the obscure corners of South African history, we encounter a parade of forgotten heroes. Those who dared to defy the norms and fought for freedom, yet their names never made it to the headlines. Ah, the irony. Let's start with the likes of Robert Sobukwe, the founder of the Pan-Africanist Congress. This guy was so feared by the apartheid government that they whipped up a law, the Sobukwe Clause, just to keep him behind bars. Talk about personalized oppression. Then there's Ruth First, a journalist, scholar, and political activist who used her pen as a weapon against apartheid. She was assassinated by a parcel bomb in Mozambique. You know you've made it when your oppressors have to resort to international postage to get rid of you. Let's not forget about Steve Biko, the charismatic leader of the Black Consciousness movement. He was beaten to death in police custody, but hey, who needs a peaceful retirement when you can become a symbol of resistance? And how about Dulcie September? She was gunned down in Paris while investigating international arms trade to South Africa. Clearly, she didn't get the memo that curiosity killed the cat. These are just a few of the many faces that dared to challenge the apartheid regime. They were teachers, students, workers, mothers, and fathers. They were ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and yet they've been overshadowed by the larger-than-life figure of Mandela. This is not to diminish the monumental role Mandela played in the struggle, but it's a gentle reminder that history, like a well-crafted Hollywood movie, often has a lead actor and a supporting cast. The lead actor gets the Oscar, but the movie wouldn't be the same without the supporting cast. So, next time you're raising a glass on Freedom Day, spare a thought for these forgotten heroes. They may not have streets named after them or their faces on banknotes, but their sacrifices were just as real and just as vital. Remember, not all heroes wear capes and or get public holidays named after them. So, apartheid ended and everyone lived happily ever after, right? Wrong. Let's get real about reconciliation. Imagine, if you will, a world where everyone is suddenly equal. No more racial divide, no more social injustice, just one big happy rainbow-colored family. Sounds like a dream, doesn't it? Well, that's exactly what it is, a dream. The reality of post-apartheid South Africa is a tad bit different. You see, when the apartheid regime fell, it didn't magically erase centuries of systemic racism and inequality. It's like trying to clean a heavily stained carpet with a single wipe. It's not going to happen no matter how hard you scrub. In the wake of apartheid, South Africa was dubbed the Rainbow Nation. A beautiful name, isn't it? Conjures up images of unity and diversity, a melting pot of cultures living harmoniously under a single banner. The reality, however, is less rainbow and more storm cloud. The dream of the Rainbow Nation, while noble, is yet to be fully realized. Today, racial inequality and social injustice are still rampant. The wealth gap between the races is staggering. The majority of the country's wealth is still concentrated in the hands of a small, predominantly white minority. Meanwhile, the majority of the black population continues to live in poverty. This is the hangover from apartheid that just won't go away. And then there's the social injustice. We're talking about everything from police brutality to housing discrimination. It's like apartheid left a gift that keeps on giving. But instead of a box of chocolates, it's a box of social issues that South Africa is still trying to unpack. Reconciliation? It's an ongoing process, like trying to piece together a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. It's going to take time, patience, and a whole lot of effort. But the first step is acknowledging that the puzzle is incomplete. So, as you enjoy your Freedom Day braai, maybe spare a thought for the unfinished business of reconciliation. So what's next for Freedom Day? A national bake-off? Or maybe a reality TV show? Let's speculate. Now imagine the future of Freedom Day, where we honor the struggle for liberation by seeing who can bake the best freedom cake. A vanilla sponge layered with the colors of the South African flag, perhaps? Or maybe a Rainbow Nation fruitcake, each slice a testament to unity and diversity. But let's not forget, it's not just about the taste. Presentation matters too. So don't be surprised if your cake is judged by how well it resembles Table Mountain or the smiling face of Nelson Mandela. And speaking of reality TV, why stop at baking? We could have Freedom Day's Got Talent, where citizens perform acts symbolizing their personal freedom. It could range from a heartfelt rendition of Nkosi Sikelel' iAfrika to an interpretive dance depicting the end of apartheid. Oh, and let's not forget the voting, where the audience gets to exercise their hard-won democratic rights, one text message at a time. But wait, there's more. How about a Freedom Day app? You know, for those of us who can't be bothered with the real world. Just swipe right if you like the idea of freedom, swipe left if you don't. And for every swipe right, a virtual dove is released into the cyber sky. Yes, these ideas may seem a bit over the top, but isn't that the trend these days? We take profound, meaningful events and turn them into shallow consumable products. We've turned everything else into a spectacle. Why should Freedom Day be any different? In all seriousness though, Freedom Day is about more than just a day off work. It's about remembering the past, acknowledging the present, and looking forward to a future where freedom is more than just a word. It's about celebrating the strides we've made, while acknowledging the work that still needs to be done. So whether it's a bake-off or a reality show, remember Freedom Day is more than just a day off work. Now that we've spilled the beans on Freedom Day, are you ready to celebrate? Or maybe just curl up in a ball of existential dread? Let's take a quick stroll down the memory lane of our dark revelations. We've unearthed the murky origins of Freedom Day, revealing a story that's more bitter than sweet. We've also dived into the irony of freedom, a concept as elusive as a politician's promise. And let's not forget our forgotten heroes, the unsung warriors who fought for freedom while the world conveniently looked the other way. We've also shed light on the unfinished business of reconciliation, a mission as ongoing as a soap opera. And finally, we've speculated on the future of Freedom Day, a future as uncertain as tomorrow's weather forecast. So there you have it, the grim underbelly of a day that's supposed to be all about freedom and joy. Remember, every silver lining has a cloud and every Freedom Day has its dark secrets. Happy celebrating, folks!